Hello fellow makeup lovers, how are you guys doing today? I am so excited for this video because we're going to be playing with red shimmer shadows, and this backstory to this video, the inspiration is that I was having a conversation with a lovely subscriber the other day about the new GlamLite Coca-Cola palette, and in the video I mentioned I was disappointed by this shimmery red shade because I was just hoping it would be more, and it ended up kind of being dry and just not that great of a shadow. Like, I mean, it gets the job done, but it just doesn't have any pizzazz to it. So we ended up having a conversation about why you just don't see red shimmer shadows that often, and it inspired me to go through my entire eyeshadow collection. Although, to be fair, I only went through my indie palettes because I did not have that high of hopes for mainstream palettes, and also, of course, it is Indiemas, so we're focusing on indie this month. So I went through and I pulled out all of my palettes that have a red shimmer shadow. We're gonna swatch all of them. We're gonna figure out what is the best, what is the worst, maybe do some comparisons. Some brands have multiple palettes that have a red in them, so I can show you if they're similar. If y'all enjoy this video, I can definitely do more. I can pretty much do any color, any finish that you want, whether it be like the best silvers, the best matte reds, the best shimmery greens, like, I don't know. Whatever your heart desires, feel free to comment, but let's start swatching. So I think we should start off with the GlamLite Coca-Cola palette because it is the inspiration behind this video. Obviously, from the way that I've already described this red shimmer, you know it's not going to be my favorite. Like I said, it is a true red, but it's just a little bit drier to the touch. It's not super creamy, and I feel like it just has a slight kind of satiny finish. Let me zoom you guys in a little bit. It's pigmented, but it just doesn't have a wow factor to it. I do appreciate that it's not pulling super orange or super pink because I think we will probably run into that at some point during this video. So next we have the Fighter palette, and this is from Fantasy Cosmetica. So we've got a really hard to open palette here. Oh my gosh. So in this palette, I wanted to include this shade Fervor, even though looking at it next to this red shade, it does look a little bit more rich and a little bit more brown toned, but oh my gosh, no. Oh, I feel like I was tricked. I was bamboozled by this palette. That is definitely not giving red. Okay, next. So I believe Fantasy Cosmetica doesn't really have any like red shimmers in their collection, which I think is interesting because they do have a lot of really fun color stories. So maybe that's something we could see in the future. But next we're gonna jump into Beaute Bar, and they are a brand where we have 3 different palettes with reds in them. This one here is the Bejeweled palette, and we have a really pretty red here. This is called the Star Ruby shade. Super metallic, very soft to the touch, but I will say it has a little bit of an orange undertone to it. So there is Star Ruby. Just really pretty formula on that one. But I do actually like the tone of the GlamLite a little bit more if we're looking for a true red. Next we have the Recently De-Influenced palette, and we've got 2 different reds in here. But I will say that this one on the bottom, Depleted, is a very intense multi-chrome. It's got a super strong like yellow gold flip going on. So for me, that does not count. I tried not to include any multi-chrome reds just because, you know, there's a lot of other shades going on. We're really just focusing on red. But I thought Fake Famous, this still has a little bit of an orange shift to it, but it's a lot more subtle. I would say that one is more of a duochrome. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, but it's a little bit muted. Not quite what I'm looking for. Next we have the new Vamp palette from Beaute Bar, and this has such a stunning red in here. I'm super excited about the possibility of this one in comparison to all the other red shimmers. So this is the shade Salvatore or Salvatore, and it does have an orange flip to it, but again, I would say it's more of a duochrome versus multi-chrome, and I just had to include it because it's so rich, so creamy, just such a good formula. Oh, but it looks really orange for me. This is getting harder than I thought. I thought we were gonna have so many good options. I think I'm just nitpicking everything now. I have the Nutty by Nature Ensley Reign palette, but this I would say is kind of a multi-chrome, so I'm gonna wait and do a few like honorable mentions at the end where we'll include that. But for now, let's do the Ensley Reign Underland palette. And love the packaging on this one so much. Such a fun collection. But there is a very true red here. It's even called the Red Queen. It looks super intense, but again, I feel like this one has an orangey kind of base to it. Oh my gosh, but it's so creamy. It's that amazing formula that I've come to love from Ensley Reign. Ooh. Okay, I feel like it looks like the previous shade, but just a tiny bit less orange. I would say that's a pretty good one. But the funny thing is that nothing is as true red as the GlamLite still, even though the GlamLite formula I don't love. Okay, we've also got a few palettes here from Oden's Eye. So I have the Little Ghost palette. This was their collaboration with Angelica Nyqvist. And this shade is kind of orangey, but I was just thinking maybe I should swatch it. Maybe we'll just do a finger swatch and call it at that. But when I was going through my palettes, I was just like, no, that's definitely not red enough. Okay. Moving on. We've got the Soul Mane 2 palette here, which again has kind of like one of those more red brownie shades. Okay, but this one I feel like is definitely more red than the Fantasy Cosmetica one. Let's see. Okay, you know what, that's not bad. I feel like it has a little less orange than some of these tones we've been seeing, but it's kind of more pulling like almost like this like pinky bronzy shade versus a true red. But I do think that would be like a more wearable red for some people, definitely a good option. From the new Silvery Bliss palette, which they came out with this year, we do have a shade here called Holiday Wishes, and it's this really pretty red with gold specks in it. And then a little closer up, I feel like it's more of a thin metallic formula, but I really like the shade on this one, and the gold specks are so cute. Okay. Oh, she's pretty. I have slight mixed feelings on this one just because I prefer something with a little more intensity, like a little bit more super metallic. And this is a little softer, but the speckles are so cute on that one. And I do like the tone of it. Next, we have a shade from the Autumn Rain palette from Sydney Grace, which I've had this palette a really long time. And this might be a little bit more of a burgundy red, but they have a shade here called Amber Jewels. And I was just inspired to pull this out. Yeah, it has a little bit more of a purple tone, and it is also just a very soft satin. This is a little bit older though. I've had it for years, so keep that in mind. I'm sure a brand new one would swatch differently. So yeah, just a little bit more burgundy-esque. I feel like not a single one of these is my perfect red. I'm feeling salty. Okay, I pulled out the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. We've got this red right here. Looks kind of cute. Okay, just kind of a soft metallic finish. Okay, I feel like that is doing pretty good overall just because it's not pulling super pink, not super orange, and it has like a nice, you know, little shine to it. I like the tone of it a lot. But again, it's not quite the intensity that I want. I need this, but a little more. I did pull out the Natasha Denona Lila palette, but I was looking at these without studio lights. And now I'm like, you know what? I feel like this is not giving the red that I thought it was giving. Definitely more burgundy. It's still super pretty, but just, it's a little too purple. Okay, lastly, before we do the honorable mention multi-chromes, we have the Blend Bunny Primal palette, and I'm just like crossing my fingers at this point that this is the shade that we've been looking for, waiting for. Okay, I zoomed you all the way in. We've got this tone right here called Potent, which looks like such a pretty kind of orangey red, but it looks very metallic. I feel like it's a good option. It's a good option, but it's not what I'm imagining. Oh, but you know what? Oh, okay. I feel like this is crazy to me. I like the color of the GlamLite Red the absolute most out of everything, but I feel like as far as getting a little bit more shimmer, a little more intensity, this Blend Bunny one is probably the best option there is if you're not wanting to go like with different undertones or go a little bit softer. but I feel like none of these are giving like that sparkly red. Like, I want to be imagining Dorothy's shoes when I swatch these shades, and that's just not what's happening. So I'm slightly disappointed in my collection. I'm kind of surprised. So let's do these multi-chromes and see. You know what? At this point, I'm like, if it's a multi-chrome, I don't even care. We've got Squirrely here. No, that's not red enough. Okay, I don't know what I was thinking. We have Adept House of L, and we've got a really beautiful like red to green multi-chrome here that is so creamy, so intense. We also have this shade here, which I wish was a little more red because the formula is so good, but it's just too orange. So there's one shade. You can see the really strong red flip. And then in Adept Sumerian Sunset, there's also a few different like red tones, but they're all pretty multi-chromy. Okay. I mean, I feel like those are all pretty in their own right. But like I said, I feel like the multi-chromes are just not quite the vibe. I also have the Groovy Garden palette from Ensley Reign here because of the shade Lava Lamp, which has a really strong red to greeny gold flip. Okay, I mean, the formula is stunning and it looks kind of red for y'all, but the green flips are definitely very intense. I genuinely don't even know how that happened, but that is our red swatch party. I hope that you enjoyed this, and let me know if you want to see a single shadow version of this, which I wasn't thinking of doing originally, but now I'm like, I owe the people because I'm slightly disappointed by this. I thought I had better red options in my collection, like just the red of my dreams. I feel like maybe you know what I'm talking about, maybe you can imagine it too, or if you have any specific recommendations for palettes or single shadows, let me know. But that's going to be all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again tomorrow for another day of Indiemas. Bye!